Welcome to Football Today, presented by Captain Morgan. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Penik, with producer Justin Penik behind the scenes. No Rose for the next, week or so. He's in London calling some football games for the NFL Network. We are not doing previews anymore. There's a dog just running around, a German Shepherd. That's scary for people. Oh, there's his owner. All right, what's going on, Justin? We're doing our third of the way awards show. So we got MVP, Offensive Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year. And we're not doing Comeback Player of the Year because it's the dumbest award ever. How are you?
We refuse. I'm good. So we're gonna change up some of our approach on our Friday shows. We're gonna make it some like stuff in the offseason that we did with some tier makers, with lists. Everybody loves making lists, and that's exactly what we're gonna start doing, some more theme stuff. And then if you stick around towards the end, I still like the idea of picking games, of having a 50-50 choice and keeping track of that. We've already done it for 5 weeks or 6 weeks. Why not keep doing it with game picks at the end, Bobby Skinner? But yeah, we're gonna start off by talking about, through 6 games of the year. We're a third of the way through of the NFL season. I guess we could do this 6 weeks from now too, to see how the list change. Who is our award ballots, our award winners?
So I also want to say this. This is if the season ended today,
correct,
who you'd vote for, not a projection, which that may include a player who has no chance at winning the award that I'm going to pick this player for. So we're going to get into it. I think MVP, there's a front runner, but after that, man, you can make like arguments for like 17 different guys. And then Offensive Player of the Year, I think there's a clear one. Defensive, so there's some ones to spend a good amount of time prepping for this, Justin. I mean, what do you want to start with first? Do you want to like lead up to MVP or start with MVP and go down?
No, I want to start with MVP.
All right. Who is the most valuable player of the year, or of the third of the year for you? Or, as other people know the award, who's the best quarterback?
Now, you did top 5, right?
I did do top 5.
I also did top 5. So I'm going to start at 5. And then I'm going to go to 1. And don't reveal your list. Say, oh, I had that guy at 3 or whatever.
Okay.
I have Brock Purdy at 5.
Okay.
I have CJ Stroud at 4. I have Jaden Daniels at 3. I have Josh Allen at 2. And I have Lamar Jackson repeating as MVP at number 1. Who do you have?
Okay, so we are pretty different outside of number 1. Number 5, I have Aiden Hutchinson.
Whoa.
Number 4, I have Josh Allen. Number 3, Baker Mayfield. Number 2, Derrick Henry. And number 1, Lamar Jackson. This is how we would do our ballot. I know that Derrick Henry would never finish second because it's a QB award, but I don't view it as a QB-only award. But we both agree. I feel like Lamar is the clear cut. I think anything other than Lamar is a wrong answer right now.
On DraftKings,
6 weeks.
So since Rose isn't here, I really like talking about odds. I think Vegas, if they're right or wrong, I think there's a reason why people bet on stuff. Mahomes is the favorite right now.
That's crazy. I mean, he has 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
He's the favorite at plus 360. Josh Allen's second at plus 475, and then you have Lamar at plus 550.
See, I could see Josh Allen being the favorite, even though he shouldn't be the MVP right now. Mahomes is pretty crazy. Like you gotta have counting stats, and he doesn't, and he has 6 interceptions. So that's pretty surprising.
They're clearly projecting. That's like what we're doing is right now, and I guess they're clearly projecting.
Even projecting, that's a big projection. So Lamar has like 250 passing yards per game. That's 7th most in the NFL. 5th in passing touchdowns behind Darnold, Mayfield, Burrow, Jordan Love, and Sam Darnold. Only 2 interceptions. He's 8th in total rushing yards. Obviously, number 1 in QB rushing yards and 2 touchdowns there. I think he's extremely valuable, and he won the MVP last year. His stats are way better. So he's like top 5 essentially in all the passing categories, and number 1 for all QB rushing, and he's good for just rushing in general. And with no other QB who's has like this phenomenal season going on, he's my number 1.
Yeah, his stats are better than last year. Among QBs with at least 200 plays, he's 4th in EPA per play, which he was not that last year. I mean, a lot of the stuff last year, you know, there are the main argument of Lamar last year for winning MVP, and this was correct, is there are not a lot of stats in today's game of football that do a very, very good job of properly measuring or evaluating how important Lamar Jackson is to his team, because Lamar Jackson is a very different type of breed of quarterback, and I think elite quarterback that we really have almost ever seen, right? The way that his ability to both run the ball at such an elite level, and I think throw the ball at such an elite level too. Really, for how long he's done it now, it's a type of quarterback play that we haven't seen. And also, Bobby, the main reason why I think he's MVP. The Ravens last year as a team just kicked ass. Look at their record against teams that are above 500. They had a kick-ass offensive line. They had a kick-ass defense, and that's not necessarily the case this year. I know they're good against. I know that defense is good against the run, but they're not very good against the pass. The Ravens have needed to get involved in shootouts to win some football games. They've needed even in some of their losses, they've needed Lamar Jackson to play hero ball to keep them in games or come back in games. Think of that Kansas City Chiefs game. So I think he's playing better than he played with last year. And I also think, I don't think he has as good of a defense as he had last year. Think of all the coaching changes. The offensive line, there are 3 new starters on that offensive line. I think that offensive line is worse. I think they got worse skill position-wise, but Derrick Henry is a huge upgrade. I will say, Derrick Henry and adding him, huge upgrade. But wide receiver-wise, I think they got worse.
Yeah, they definitely got worse. And I had Henry as second in MVP. Well, I think my MVP ballot gave away a couple of other of my award votes. But yeah, I mean, he's had to play hero ball this year. And here's something with Lamar, because he's a really good passer. If you want to debate how, him versus Josh Allen or Mahomes, whatever, go at it. We can't get fatigue for how good of a rusher he is. He's going to be he's going to pass Vic eventually for, most rushing yards of all time. I mean, he's 8th in rushing in the NFL, right? So, there's 7 running backs.
He's second in yards per attempt, only behind Tank Bigsby, who has 41 attempts.
Yeah. So, it's just he's a special runner, and he's doing that with his arm. As much as, people look back at Mike Vick with nostalgia, Mike Vick's nowhere near the quarterback that Lamar is, even though he might be, a better just actually runner of the football. Lamar's just, there's no clear just passing stats best in the NFL right now. So when he's up there with those guys and yards per game and passing touchdowns, and then you add the rushing, to me it's an easy MVP vote for Lamar Jackson right now.
I agree with that. Is there anybody else? Josh Allen, by the way, still hasn't thrown an interception yet this year, which I did not know that.
Now, so I had Josh Allen 4th. He's got 10 passing touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's only 7th in QB rushing this year, which usually he's the guy that's second to Lamar in that area. He's 26th in passing yards per game. But he is, like you mentioned, second EP per play. So Josh Allen's doing really well right now. And the 0 interceptions is the key thing for him. So if there was anyone that I can bet that can challenge Lamar, it is him. I just have him 4th right now, just because he doesn't have the volume that he's used to bringing, where he's usually 2nd in passing yards and 2nd in QB rushing, and then, 2nd or 1st in passing touchdowns. So I do think Josh Allen will eventually be top 2 on my ballot, but right now I'm going with him 4th. And this
by the way, this is the first time that we've talked on this show since the Bills just traded for Amari Cooper, and that's awesome.
That's going to make a huge difference.
That's awesome. I mean, it just felt like this offense, besides Khalil Shakir, it's kind of been Keon Coleman on the sideline, throwing some back shoulders or some contested catches. Hollins, I know, had some decent plays throughout the year, and I think even last week he did too. But still, getting Amari Cooper is a perfect fit for most NFL teams, and that just goes to show you how good of a player Amari Cooper is, but especially for what I feel like the Bills are trying to do with Josh Allen. I think it is a beautiful, beautiful, perfect fit, and I think we're going to, some dud games that, but there were 2 games basically so far this year, 4 really good games, touchdown output games for Josh Allen, whether that be on the ground or through the air, And then I feel like there's been 2 dud games before this past week against the Jets.
The Texans one was just flat out bad, too.
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to get those dud games with Amari Cooper. I don't.
Absolutely not. Amari Cooper's a perfect fit for any team in the NFL.
Yes.
But he's also perfect for Josh Allen because it's, unlike Diggs, they don't feel the need to, like, hey, we got to get him his touches or he's going to be upset. Like, Amari Cooper is very much just, I will do my job. Whatever you want out of me, I'm going to do it. Now, he's had a ton of drops this year. Hopefully that changes with a little bit of a change of scenery. But Amari Cooper's like, he's such a perfect fit for Josh Allen right now. I'm so excited to see, like, they are, it's tough to pick against them right now in the AFC now that they've added Amari Cooper. He's such a huge ad for them, man.
Huge.
And then it's not costing them any money either, by the way.
No, it's not.
Hope they look to extend him, to be honest.
I want to ask you about Brock Purdy, because we talked about C.J. Stroud.
I thought about putting him, but I put Aiden. It was either him or Aiden Hutchinson for me. Brock Purdy's playing great. He's putting people like, oh, how good is that, all those guys? Like, I think he's doing a lot of the carrying. Now, in his one primetime event, you had that lucky touchdown to Deebo Samuel where Julian Love just whiffed on it.
Yeah.
And people are like, this happens all the time. And that has happened in the past with Purdy, but Purdy's doing a lot. He's, making plays outside the pocket, most yards per completion. Like, Brock Purdy is doing a lot. Like, if you have any doubts of, like, oh, is Brock Purdy good? I think this year should have answered some of them for you.
Because there's a lack of, in an offense that's shaped around easy answers, and, we're going to not necessarily get the ball out of our hands quick, but we're just going to give, it's in the past, it's been so QB friendly. And not to say that it's not QB friendly now, but I think Brock Purdy, with his good play, he's making things happen, like you said. And losing Christian McCaffrey, it's not so much the run game, and I think the Thursday Night Football broadcast against the Seahawks did a great job of outlining this. It's not so much the run game that they are missing McCaffrey, even though they are, but it's the pass game, and it's how you can get the ball to Christian McCaffrey in the pass game and how that could set everybody else up from there too. And also, I don't want to act like I don't think there have been times where Brandon Ayuk hasn't been great. He didn't have a camp, and he's still coming up to speed, and Debo has still been hurt, and of course you have Kittle, but when you're missing all those pieces and that offensive line isn't great, Brock Purdy has made a lot of things happen, and I think he deserves a lot of love. And I think as the season goes on, depending on comers and goers, I think Brock Purdy's going to continue to be there, and he may challenge some of these guys by the end of the year.
We talk about like the Vikings defense, giving all these great QBs, issues, C.J. Stroud, Aaron Rodgers. What was the other one that they beat? Jordan Love. I thought Brock Purdy did the best out of all of them.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I feel good about everybody on my list. Is there anybody else that you want to mention?
There's 2 guys that I'll mention in other words. Baker is, I put him third. And again, is MVP is a little bit of a counting stats award. He leads the NFL in passing touchdowns by 3. He has the highest scoring offense in the NFL. He's also added 2 rushing touchdowns, and that's actually like been a little bit valuable down in the low red zone. Like he's putting up numbers, man. Like Chris Godwin is like top, top 5 in receiving. Yeah. Mike Evans is obviously there, so like those guys are helping. But like they're putting up some freaking points in Tampa, and I do a little bit of this as most outstanding player. I think doing the most valuable thing gets a little annoying, so I view it a little more as most outstanding. In fact, when we do our Talking Giants awards, it's very clearly the most outstanding player, not most MVP, because people are just like, well, technically. But anyways, I got Baker Mayfield at third right now.
No, he's been good, and I love that you included him. He's 7th in EPA per play, and that's kind of low. A guy that I just mentioned, Brock Purdy, is 6th. So I love that you included Baker. I give there's some other Tampa Bay love that's going to be happening towards the bottom of this list. That people may or may not like.
Who do you think's going to win Rookie of the Year on Talking Giants this year?
Well, I don't think that's a question. Who's going to win Rookie of the Year this year? That may also win Rookie of the Year for Talking Giants. All right, let's move to Offensive Player of the Year. But first, Bobby, I I may want to talk to you about something, or you may want to talk to me about something.
Why don't you talk to us about something?
I'll talk to you about something, and that something is Captain Morgan. Captain Morgan, this episode and this show, Football Today, is presented by Captain Morgan. And oh boy, in the Captain Morgan Playmakers Fantasy Football League, I'm not doing too hot. Not doing too hot because I have Malik Neighbors that's hurt. I have Chris Olave that's hurt. I have James Cook that's out. I am still a firm believer that my team is going to be fine. I think Dalton's cooking. Jake accidentally dropped Travis Kelce, and I had to put like a hold on it, and there's a big controversy of people wanting Travis Kelce, but Jake has to pick him up, but it was an accident that he dropped him, so I'm telling everybody don't drop it or else you're going to get in trouble, and I will remove him from the team. It's a big to-do in the Captain Morgan Playmakers Fantasy Football League, and there you go. That's your update. I'm waiting for my team to get healthy. I'm still confident that I'm going to win. I have Josh Allen as my quarterback and James Cook, and I think we're going to be fine. Malik Neighbors is coming back from that concussion for you fantasy people. Put Malik Neighbors back in your lineups because he practiced fully on Thursday. Captain Morgan, the official spiced rum sponsor of the NFL. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan, original spiced rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company in New York, New York. Bobby Skinner, you will be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. All right, Offensive Player of the Year, Justin.
Offensive Player of the Year. Now, I no quarterbacks. No quarterbacks. The MVP is the quarterback award, at least for me. It is for the NFL, and I went, Offensive Player of the Year, even though, quarterbacks are listed as some favorites in the odds, I went no quarterbacks here.
Same as well, because it's like, well, it'd be pretty boring if it wasn't.
Number one, I'm going to start off with number 5. Number 5, I have Jamar Chase. Number 4, I have Justin Jefferson. Number 3, I have Saquon Barkley. Number 2, I have Nico Collins. And number 1, I have Derrick Henry. And I think both of us have Derrick Henry, number 1.
Yeah, at number 5, I have Justin Jefferson. Number 4, Alvin Kamara. Number 3, Jamar Chase. Number 2, Nico Collins. And number 1, Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry has to be the easy answer, right? His 704 rushing yards is first in the NFL by 95 yards. 8 rushing touchdowns is most by 2. He's 9 scrimmage touchdowns because he's got a receiving one in there. He's on pace for 2,000 yards or 1,995 yards. He's playing amazing. He's been a godsend to the Ravens. I think he's been so valuable to what they're doing. Like they just like, all right, we're gonna run the ball all game long. We're just gonna run it down your throats. And you look at him last year. And it wasn't the most efficient year, but it's like he still played pretty damn well on an awful Tennessee Titans offensive line, and teams were selling out against him. And it's like I think he might explode on the Ravens. It didn't look at so good week 1. Since then, man, it's been phenomenal.
And I think this has always been a thing and a factor, but now that the Ravens are more primetime television, more highlights, you have Lamar, you just watch Derrick Henry more. I mean, what a weapon to have. He's leading the league in rushing touchdowns. I mean, what a weapon to have inside the red zone too, because you don't want to tackle him. I mean, there was a play last week where I don't blame this DB. This DB made a business decision where Henry is running kind of wide open. There's no help coming for me on the defensive side, so you got to make a business decision. Do you want to go and tackle this 250-pound ball of muscle who's gonna fuck you up? Do you want to try and make a stop, or are you just going to let him score? Because he's going to score anyway. And he kind of was just like, all right, I gave a half-ass effort to tackle, and you just let him in. So, and we know Derrick Henry's good. And I feel like as we talk about, and I tend to do this, I try to hype up Lamar a lot because I know that people are going to try and diminish Lamar because of Derrick Henry's impact. When I don't want to make it seem like Derrick Henry is, Derrick Henry's not good. No, he's really good. They're both very good, and they both make each other very, very good. So, he's good. We know that.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been insane this year. Like, he changes what they can do on offense. And, we talked about some of our worries about the Ravens offense overall. Him being added has been a godsend for them. So he's my number 1. We both had Nico Collins at number 2.
Yep.
I mean, he's leading the NFL in receiving despite missing a game.
Yep.
It's pretty and as the NFL is like, oh, we got to stop the deep passes, right? That's been a theme, maybe a theme earlier in the year, and people just get used to it as the season goes along, stop talking about it. He's the ultimate, like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You're still going to throw me the post, and I'm still going to get open and catch it.
Yeah, and I've watched every single throw, according to Next Gen, every single completion that CJ Stroud has had under pressure this week. And some of those throws, Bobby, are just effing Nico Collins down there somewhere. That's CJ Stroud's approach, and he's right. The dude was top 3 in yards per route run last year, and there was a question of, we even talked about it on this show, and I think we, eat a little bit of crow, that, I think Stephon Diggs is the number 1 in Houston. But Nico Collins, even with both of them on the field, pure number 1 and one of the best receivers in the league. And he's been a security blanket for CJ Stroud. And usually when you use the phrase security blanket, it's, okay, well, this guy's going to be available for you in the short part of the field, intermediate part of the field. No, he's a security blanket for CJ Stroud 20 plus yards down the field when he's under pressure, which is bizarre and crazy.
Yeah, and when we talk about the Texans going into the year, like, okay, they got all these guys who are like yards per game are like top 15, but it's like, all right, but they're not going to all be top like this. Nico Collins' production probably go down with the addition of Stephon Diggs. To be able to put up that type of production on a team that does have Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and even Dalton Schultz too, and a team that likes to run the ball as much as they do, it's like it screams number 1 wide receiver doesn't get as many yards as his impact is, and he's just nuts. So, again, missed the game, and he's still, leading the NFL in receiving yards. All
right, I got a question for you. And it's quite interesting that our New York Football Giants are reuniting with this guy this weekend. Why is Saquon Barkley not in your top 5?
He's 3rd in rushing yards per game. He doesn't have very many receiving yards at all. And I just think there's I think there's 3 receivers I have on there: Nico, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. Basically, your top 3 guys in receiving yards per game. And then Alvin Kamara is doing a lot more as a dual threat.
Where's Alvin Kamara in total rushing?
Total rushing, he's 7th. But he's 1st in running back receiving yards, 3rd in scrimmage yards, 2nd in scrimmage touchdowns.
He's at 4.1 yards per attempt. Barkley's above 5. Barkley's 4th in overall rushing, despite having the bye week.
But he's 3rd in rushing yards per game behind Jordan Mason. And again, Saquon has, I think his highest receiving game was 32 yards.
I know. Now again, this is Offensive Player of the Year. This isn't most valuable offensive player. Because my argument's about to say, Saquon Barkley has won some games for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think they win that game without. I don't think they win that Saints game without him. He exploded in that Packers game, so I think he deserves some love. I think to be in the top. I get your argument of Alvin Kamara and maybe being more versatile. 10. Yeah. I thought he was a slam dunk for top 5, and I was interested to see. I get why you don't have him top 5, but I just disagree.
Offensive Player of the Year to me is a counting stats award.
Yeah.
And then Alvin Kamara's 3rd in the scrimmage yards. He's 2nd in scrimmage touchdowns. 1st in running back receiving yards, so he brings a lot of value there. 7th in rushing yards, so it's not like last year where he was probably 22nd or 18th in rushing yards. And then I just think the receivers are having way more outstanding years than what Saquon Barkley's doing. Saquon Barkley's having a good year, but it's he has two rushing, games over 100 rushing yards.
Yeah.
This isn't some spectacular running back season. He's actually having his best season of his career. When success rate, yards per game, and yards per carry. But I just think those other guys are having. I would have him he's obviously in the top 10. I just don't have him in the top 5 over the receivers. And then Derrick Henry and Alvin Kamara.
Saquon, ironically enough, is also hitting speeds that he hasn't hit in since 2018 and 2019.
It helps when you have an offensive line that actually blocks for you and gives you space to do those types of things.
Yeah, helps.
But but here's the thing: if AJ Brown played all the games, I think he's having a better per game season on his own team. If AJ Brown's, if we're just doing this on per game, AJ Brown might be offensive player, be the best threat to Derrick Henry in this award. And then Justin Jefferson, because everything else is like so good on the Vikings, like you forget, like, yep, he's the best at his position, third in receiving yards per game, 4 touchdowns second. Like he's, and he's obviously missed a game because of a bye week. He gets a crazy amount of double team attention. He's made people, there'll be some people commenting that Sam Darnold deserves MVP votes because of stuff like that, Justin Jefferson does. But Chase, I had third. He's second in receiving yards per game. Receiving yards by 1 yard. He has the most receiving touchdowns. So there's some pretty stellar receiving seasons happening.
Absolutely. I don't have any other thoughts. So who
else did you have? Because we had Henry, Nico 1-2, and then I had Jamar, Kamara.
No, we touched
Jefferson,
on everybody.
3 to 5. Who was your 3 to 5?
My 3 to 5 was Barkley, Jefferson, and Chase.
Okay. All right. So the only difference in top fives was I had Alvin Kamara, you had Saquon Barkley.
I love that. That's fair.
Did Alvin Kamara have a drop that lost his team a game? I don't know.
Ooh.
Defensive player of the year.
This is where it gets fun.
Yeah, because I think I think there's a clear number one. And again, remember, this is if the season ended today, how would you vote?
Oh, if the season ended today. Okay. Yeah.
So number 5, I have Chris Jones. Number 4, Fred Warner. Number 3, Dexter Lawrence. Number 2, Jalen Johnson. And number 1, Aiden Hutchinson.
Okay. So I have a top 6 here because I just put Aiden Hutchinson as number 1. He is not going to win. Unfortunately, he's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year because he just broke his leg. So at number 6, I have Fred Warner. Number 5, I have Xavier McKinney.
That's a good one.
Number 4, I have Will Anderson. Number 3, I have Pat Surtain. Number 2, I have Dexter Lawrence. And then number 1, I have Aiden Hutchinson.
Okay. So the only one that I can see myself, like Xavier McKinney, I think I could put him over, like, I guess 5 interceptions in 6 games is nuts. Like, I might change. I'm not going to change because I already made my ballot, and that's not how awards voting goes. But if we were in a committee, voting for the awards like shit, I would be like, yeah, that's a great point by Justin. Xavier McKinney. I actually, I put Xavier McKinney number 4. Aiden Hutchinson is the easy, and he's 7.5 sacks in 5 games, right? So he's missed the game, and it's a little change from another one from the injuries, the most in the NFL. He has 10 more total sacks, hits, and pressures than anyone, again, in 5 games. His pass rush win rate is 38%, which is 10% better than anybody in the NFL.
It's historic.
He's on pace for 25.5 sacks and 17. He's on pace for 25.5 sacks, Justin, and that doesn't even paint a good enough picture of how good he's been. No. He's been dominant, Justin. I loved him coming out of Michigan. I thought either him or Sauce Gardner should have been the first pick in the draft, and we got people tried to drug us and say, oh no, Trayvon Walker, man, length, and Aiden Hutchinson, yeah, he wins so much, but like he doesn't have the arm length, and he times up the snap. And I was like, yeah, but I watched this guy's film, and it's just nuts. It's nuts, and everyone tries to talk you out of shit. And I feel good about Aiden Hutchinson because he's just a monster, and it breaks my heart, Justin, that we don't get to watch him for the rest of the year.
No, because it legitimately would have been one of the best pass rushing seasons that we've ever seen. Because even though a guy like Shaq Barrett in 2019 had more sacks. I think he had like 9 sacks in the first 5-6 games. So there are some guys that are outliers that have more sacks or hits, but what Aiden Hutchinson was doing is he had the sacks to start, number 1, to have already have on pace to have a historic season. But over the last 20 years, his win rate was one of the best that we've ever seen. The total sacks, hits, pressures, hurries, the total of everything was one of the highest that we've seen over the last 20 years. I went back all the way back to 2004. I think that's how long PFF goes back to charting all the total sacks, hits, QB, hurries and pressures and shit like that. I'm like, is Aiden Hutchinson just having the best season ever? And when you look on PFF, it was like, yes. But then you look at Pro Football Reference with sacks and stuff like that, and there's some other guys that had a better start. But why I think Aiden Hutchinson, that it would have continued, and maybe it would have even gotten better, is because of how often he was just getting in the backfield. He was winning more than anybody else in the NFL, and he was winning at a higher rate than anybody else in the NFL like over the last 20 years. That's what he was doing, and it's a shame that this season is robbed from Lions fans, and it's a shame that we're robbed from seeing it ourselves too.
Yeah. So you had Dexter Lawrence number 2. I had him number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, second in sacks in the NFL from the nose tackle position, an elite run defender, double more than any player in the NFL. Like, what he's doing for the nose tackle position has been historic. And something you talked about when we did our preseason awards is like, I'm just like, yeah, but the sack, he just doesn't get the sacks, you know, like the Chris Jones or the Aaron Donald does. Well, this year he is, like you said. And honestly, his sacks have not been as great as years past. But having that edge presence has,
yes,
you know, and you know, his defensive coordinator using more stunts has led to him being able to get, you know, his sack total being able to match his, you know, pass rush total.
Yeah, I actually thought in 2022 that he was more dominant on like a down in, down out basis. But that doesn't mean that Dexter Lawrence is not playing well. He's playing at a really good level. But now it's just he's pairing the dominant play that he is with those stats. And I think, you know, going to the Shane Bowen defense that has historically kind of gotten a lot of sacks and good amount of pressure on the quarterback. I think that's very much helped him so far this year. So it'll be a big, like, can Dexter Lawrence continue to get sacks and pressure on the quarterback, and even tackles for loss too. He has 5 tackles for loss so far this year, which I think for him, he's on pace to have his most tackles for loss in his career as well.
Yeah, he's on pace to like double all of his career highs.
Yep.
And, you know, sacks and tackles for a loss. So he's in that. Now I put Jalen Johnson number 2, the Bears corner.
Now I put Pat Surtain number 3. So we both have corners there. Guys that we view as number 1s. I have
Johnson at number 2 over Dexter Lawrence. You know, what he's been able to, like, to sustain the amount of the way he's able to shut guys down is nuts. You know, and he has a cornerback too in Tyreek Stevenson that I think he helps, you know, play, but like it's a corner that you don't want to just throw at. So it's not like it's just, oh, we can't throw at this guy. Like, you know, we don't throw at this guy because the other side's so weak. Like, you don't want to throw at Tyreek Stevenson. Jalen Johnson has, in 6 games, given up 10 completions, 19 attempts, 113 yards. So that's 18 yards per game. On those very few attempts, he has 2 interceptions. He's 0 touchdowns allowed, 0 penalties too, which I think is something we forget about in the cornerback argument. It's like, yes, some of these guys, they have some great numbers, but they get called for penalties and shit. To me, he was the best corner in the NFL coming into the year. He's had a much better year than Sauce, who was my number 2 coming into the year. Like, it's unbelievable that he is continuing to just put together these types of numbers again. Like, it's at corner to just continuously do this is nuts, because usually you just have a game. You have a game where you give up 85 yards and that ruins, you know, the season compared to your best season. And it has not happened in 6 games right now. So Jalen Johnson, I think he's the best corner in the NFL. You know, he is shut down, but when you do throw his way, he does get his hands on the football. He's a special, special player.
Yeah, and I can't argue with that. So instead of arguing against you, I'll just argue for Pat Surtain, who has allowed the 2nd lowest EPA per target among corners so far this season. And, I mean, listen to the wide receiver 1s, and Pat Surtain has followed wide receiver 1s for the most part so far this year. He followed DK Metcalf week 1, and I believe he only allowed, if you hold for 1 second, I do have the stats on that according to Next Gen. Pat Surtain only allowed shadow DK Metcalf on 24 of his 25 routes in their week 1 matchup. And I believe he only allowed 3 receptions for 29 yards week 1. Week 2, that's against George Pickens, right? 1 catch, 1 reception on 2 targets for 16 yards. Tampa Bay, week 3, that's Mike Evans, right? That's one reception on 1 target for 8 yards. Against the Jets, week 4, that's Garrett Wilson. 2 catches, 3 targets, 24 yards. And against Las Vegas, week 5, he had 2 interceptions, including a 100-yard pick 6 return back for a touchdown. Pat Surtain has a brain injury. He had a concussion. So please get better. Please get healthy. I think he got it like the 2nd snap or the 1st snap of the game against the Chargers.
Yeah, first snap.
But, hey, I've been a big proponent and I've been a big advocate for this Broncos defense on this show so far this year, but it's mainly been because of their pass rush and their aggression on defense. Well, if you're being aggressive on the front, What are you doing on the back end? You're playing man coverage, and Pat Surtain locking down wide receiver ones, and those stats are undeniable, and he follows those wide receiver ones. He's playing out of his mind this year, and he's a huge part of the Broncos' defensive success.
He is. It's just I think Jalen Johnson's been a smidge better. He said he's number 2 in EPA per play for corners. Who's number 1?
I don't know if I have that on me because that was just a.
It's got to be Jalen Johnson.
If you hold on 1 second, I'm gonna find it.
Because their stats are almost identical. It's just Jalen Johnson has 4 more targets at him. But same amount of catches. But Surtain has 15 targets.
Coverage EPA.
And Johnson has 113 yards allowed. Surtain has 111 yards allowed.
Pat Surtain.
Both 2 interceptions, both 2 pass breakups. But here's the thing. Surtain has 6 penalties.
That's a good point. I can't find it right now.
All right, I win. I'm just going to assume it's Jalen Johnson.
Jalen Johnson, so the Pat Surtain the second, total coverage EPA, minus 11.8. And Jalen Johnson has, if you scroll down here, I just saw it. Crap. Bad radio. It's less. I know that.
I have Fred Warner number 4. You have him number 5.
It's minus 6.2. There you go. So
Okay,
Pat Surtain is better coverage EPA-wise.
Yeah, maybe they should start including penalties in EPA.
They should.
It's expected penalties added. I don't think they do, because that would be, like we talk about their yards are the same, except for Surtain has added an extra a lot. Fred Warner's been dominant again. It's hard for a linebacker to win Defensive Player of the Year, but man, he's played damn good. 4 forced fumbles is the first in the NFL. 2 interceptions, most for linebackers. Sacks, 50 tackles. Like, he's just, he's 15th in run stops, which is only 1 behind the leader. He's been nuts. And then I think Chris Jones is not having the best box score season. He's having a decent one, but like we've watched him where it's like teams just. Like, the Bengals and the Ravens lost to the Kansas City Chiefs because of Chris Jones.
Yeah, he takes over games.
Where their defense has been so strong, their offense hasn't been as sharp this year. Like, he's a game-winning type of player. And you could put him out on the edge, so I got him out there. Xavier McKinney, though, 5 interceptions in 6 games is if you're thinking, like, play out the rest of the season, that's a 10-plus interception season, so he should belong on there, too.
According to DraftKings, it's TJ Watt with the best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year, then Will Anderson Jr. Chris Jones and Nick Bosa are tied for third. Nick Bosa is also having a really good year. Dexter Lawrence is up there at plus 750, and then Max Crosby at plus 900, and then Fred Warner is at plus 1,000 with Xavier McKinney to follow after him.
I do think TJ Watt's the best bet because he gets sacks every year consistently. And so those numbers will come for him. It's the DBs. It's really hard. I think the last one to get it was Gilmore. The linebackers aren't getting it. So I do, and Hutchinson's injured. I don't know if Lawrence's stats or the Giants would be good enough for to get him in it. So I do think TJ Watt will probably get it at the end of the year, with Chris Jones and maybe Myles Garrett being able to compete. But all right, that's Defensive Player of the Year, and we got to finish this show, so we need some frickin' energy. So today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy shops help you feel alert and energized, right? And you need to be alert when you're playing football, right? You see a light box, alert, 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 alert. You get into duo, you get a nice run play. How about that? Each shot is packed with vitamins, nutrients, and about as much caffeine as the leading premium coffee. Regular shot equals an 8-ounce coffee. How about that? Extra shot, 12-ounce coffee. I like the extra strength. Contains 0 sugar. You can drink it in seconds, feel it in minutes, baby. Lasts for hours. This shit don't stop. Available in a wide range of great flavors across regular strengths and extra strength varieties. 5 Hour Energy shots are portable, convenient, and go with you for that feeling of energy whenever and wherever you need it. Justin, I need to tell the truth about something. Confess my sins.
Please.
I stole a 5 Hour Energy when I was like 15 years old from a 7-Eleven.
Whoa.
When they first came out.
Worth it.
It was worth it. But don't steal them. Buy them. Head to on that World Wide Web, 5hourenergy.com. You don't need to spell the 5. It's a number and then Hour Energy. Those don't have numerical value. And you use code JOHNBOY to save 20% off on your first order. That's 5hourenergy.com. Code JOHNBOY to save 20%. You'll be glad you did. You can't steal them online, so that's the way you need to do it. But it's kind of like a steal with the savings. All right, Justin. Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Who's your top 5?
Number 5. I have Joe Alt. Giving offensive lineman some love. He's been injured, but he's been good.
He's only played 3 games.
But he's been good. Okay. Number 4, I have Brock Bowers.
Ooh.
Number 3, I have Brian Thomas. Number 2, I have Malik Neighbors. And number 1, I have Jaden Daniels.
Hey. So you have Brian Thomas number 3, you said?
I do, yes.
Okay. So, Justin, number 5, I have Caleb Williams.
Sure.
Slow start, but most passing touchdowns by a wide margin. Almost 350 yards per game over the last 4 games. I know, again, slow start, but it's been good. Number 4, I want to shout out Brandon Thorne because he's put a little on my radar. Zach Frazier, the center for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been awesome. He's been dominant in the run game. He's been solid in the pass blocking. He's 6th in pass blocking efficiency for centers. 0 sacks allowed and been the beast in the run game. We got to put him there. And Justin, like you, that LSU offense is my 1 through 3. Number 3, I have Brian Thomas Jr. Number 2, Malik Neighbors. And number 1, Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. They're good,
Who would have thought that LSU offense that just threw deep pass after deep pass would be, good?
Would be that good.
I'm so glad that I know Jaden Daniels is our number 1. I'm so glad that Brian Thomas Jr. is good because, you know me, I can sometimes fall in love with the tall receiver who is fast and can get open deep, but needs to work on the route tree. Shout out Alec Pierce. It's finally come together. And I was like, am I doing it again with Brian Thomas? Because there's things he needs to clean up about his route running. I was like, I don't think he's far off, though. I think it's a couple, some minute details that are easily fixable, can get there. And he's been awesome. Leads, rookies in receiving total. 3 touchdowns is only worse than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's been really good. He's been like a bright spot on a Jags offense that has very little bright spots.
I agree. Ability to get open deep. Catch some more touchdowns, though. That just seems to be
He's been missed on some touchdowns, some plays that would be touchdowns too. So Brian Thomas Jr. has been great. Jaden Daniels is obviously the one. He gets a little bit of the QB bias, but he's number 1 in QB EPA per play. He's 2nd in QB rushing yards behind Lamar. Doesn't have a ton of passing touchdowns, but he's good in yards. He's 17th in passing yards per game, 22nd in passing touchdowns this year. But he has 4 rushing touchdowns. Commanders have been winning. He's been playing well. He's done a lot on 3rd and longs for them. He's gotten better, I think, basically every single week. Where I wasn't super high on him after his first 2 games. I think it's come together pretty well. Jaden Daniels is not only the Pepsi Rookie of the Week, which, by the way, Commanders fans have been hijacking the Pepsi Rookie of the Week award. And
stop.
It's very funny. Like, nobody, if Jaden Daniels is nominated, nobody else can win it.
Even when they lose and Caleb Williams has like a better game.
Yeah, but it's very funny Commanders fans are hijacking that award. Keep doing it. I hope he never loses another Pepsi Rookie. I hope he wins it next year. But you got to go Jaden Daniels. If Malik Neighbors didn't miss 2 games, I think you could make an argument. Like, I understand he's the QB and all that, but this guy's... Like, Malik Neighbors is 2nd in receiving yards per game this year. Like, he was number 1 in catches per game.
Number 1, again, the target share was the most impressive thing. Is that, you think of the target share that Justin Jefferson should get, insert wide receiver 1 here, or any wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Malik Neighbors was getting 40% of the Giants' offensive targets. Just the volume and the reliance on Malik Neighbors through the first 4 games of the season was nuts, and I think it will continue.
Yeah, he's like with missing 2 games, he's 7th in catches and 14th in yards in the NFL. So he's been nuts.
12 for 12 on 3rd down.
If Joe Alt was healthy, I'd put him in the top 3, but he's He's only played 3 games this year.
Played well against Max Crosby. Had a nice game against the Panthers.
Watt got him though.
Watt got him on a sack, on a snap. Yeah, I'm not gonna hold you. I'm not gonna hold that too much against you. So, but good call on Zach Frazier. That's a ball. That's a ball pull.
Honestly, I haven't sit here and studied Zach Frazier, but I've seen people clip up his games, and it's been really impressive.
And I will say a little Brock Bowers love. Dude, he at the stem of the route, he shows some shimmy, and you want to talk about an offense that's going to have to rely on him. I mean, he's catching a lot of balls from out wide and in the slot, and I even saw against the Browns, and then they didn't give him the ball for the rest of the game. Against the Browns on like a 2nd and 10, they gave him a jet sweep in the backfields that he made a guy miss in the open field that took for a first down. It was like, what are we doing? This is not a good play call, but they got to they're going to get the ball in his hands more. Now, Devontae Adams is officially gone. There's no other target there that's worth it, and I think he's 2nd or 3rd in tight end yards per route run. It's not just the volume. Yards per route run is there for him too. So Brock Bowers is good. He's already one of the league's best tight ends.
Yeah, the only guy with more is Dallas Goedert in yards per route run.
Funny story about him.
Sucker punched his ass.
Yeah.
He's 3rd in rookie receiving total, number 1 in tight end receiving yards. Now there's a little bit of force feeding there,
There is.
But yeah, he's been phenomenal for a position where people are like, So I was worried. He's got a very low average depth of target. In fact, I'm going to look at it.
A lot of tight ends do.
Yeah, that's true. But again, tight ends is one of those positions you could fall in love with the player, and then it's like get to the NFL, and it's just not what it is. Especially for a guy who's like a power slot receiver in Bowers, it's not your traditional tight end. So he's come in running, and then I think Caleb Williams has done some pretty impressive stuff. So I put him 5. All right, defensive rookie of the year.
Defensive rookie of the year.
A little tough there because there's not like these great seasons happening for defensive rookie of the year. So,
can I be honest with you? I took a cop out.
Uh-oh.
I have number 5 and number 4 as incomplete, and I have a top 3.
Piece of shit.
I know. I am.
Piece of shit.
I am. But I also I'm gonna sit here, and I will tell you, like I can't sit here and tell you. I'm just gonna look on DraftKings really quick. I can't sit here and tell you that oh my God, Evan Williams really deserves to be here, or Kalen Bullock. I know you really.
Here's
like
the thing:
Bullock.
is there's guys that you've noticed though, and then see if they got I haven't watched every snap of Tyke Smith, my number 5. The nickel corner for the Tampa Bay Bucks, but I've noticed him when I watched them. Right. He makes plays, and then he's got some stats. So I got Tyke Smith, the Bucks nickel corner. He was the safety at Georgia, number 5. Number 4, I have 49ers safety Malik Mustafa. You know how much I love him. He's been awesome for the San Francisco. He got an interception. He's a great run defender, best tackling DB, maybe in the NFL. Number 3, and I'll be honest, this is confirming my priors a little bit, and so it makes me feel good about defensive rookie of the year. Number 3, I have Packers linebacker Edgerrin Cooper, my linebacker 1. He's been playing really well. Number 2, Kenyon Mitchell, corner for the Eagles. And then number 1, Jared Verse. Jared Verse with my edge 1 out of FSU. He only has 1 sack. Now, there's not this guy with 4 or 5 sacks to win that, but he has 5 tackles for a loss. His pass rush win rate is 3rd behind Aiden Hutchinson and Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
He's got that power element. He's been a beast in the run defense. I think he's rookie of the year, even though he doesn't have the sacks to really prove it yet.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Verse right now is plus 200 on defensive rookie of the year. I may put $100 on that. Like that's how confident I feel that Jared Verse is just going to win this award. And not just because of, all right, if the season were to end today, he would be, but I think the sacks are going to come because of how much. It favors
a defensive player.
Yeah, it favors an edge rusher.
Pass rusher.
Yeah, if it favors an edge rusher, and number 1, Jared Verse is good. Number 2, and number 3, he's getting he's winning, and he's getting pressure on the quarterback where I think the sacks will come. I have Tyke Smith 3. He's made some nice plays on the football. He's a good blitzer. He has some plays in the backfield too for that Tampa Bay Bucks defense. He's kind of co-headlining a young Bucks secondary with McCollum, and then you have a good safety duo there too. I have Quinyon Mitchell number 2, and then I have Jared Verse number 1.
Okay, so we're pretty similar. This is there's no like dominant defensive rookie like just step into the league, one of the best players in his position.
No,
I know Verse is doing really good, but you got to have more than one sack to put him in that category right away. It's really not. Like even Kenyon Mitchell's been pretty good. 6 pass breakups, 0 touchdowns, 44 yards per game allowed. He's 3rd in the NFL for forcing completions, 4th in pass breakups. But he's not like some dominant like corner. I know it's high standards, but like usually there's 1 or 2 where it's like, okay, this guy's in, he's great. Like he's a great player at his position right away.
Maybe there's a reason why there wasn't a defensive player picked until, the Colts picked with Latu. There's a reason why.
I did not think of that. I want to go through the defensive rookie of the years over the last 5 years. So we got Will Anderson, Sauce Gardner, Micah Parsons. So those 3 are better.
Yeah.
Chase Young, that was a little bit of an overrated rookie of the year. Nick Bosa, Shaq Leonard, Marshawn Lattimore, Joey Bosa. Marcus Peters won rookie of the year. How about that?
How about
Aaron
that?
Donald, he was all right. Brian Cushing, that steroid using psycho, won it in 09. Gerard Mayo, he coaches the Patriots now, if you didn't know. Patrick Willis, D'Amico Ryans, he coaches the Texans. A lot of coaches on here.
How do you like that?
Let's go through the rookies of the year and see. Brian Urlacher, no one knows what he's doing. Jonathan Vilma's on TV. Sean Merriman, I still see he tweets about the Chargers. D'Amico Ryans, he's a coach. Gerard Mayo's a coach.
Sean Merriman scared me as a child.
Yeah, he made me regret a trade at one point, and then I was wrong. Von Miller, he's on the Bills. Luke Kuechly.
Was that the Eli Manning trade that you're referring to?
Yeah. Phillip Rivers looked good, and Sean Merriman did too. And that was.
Hey, Bobby.
Why don't you talk to us about something before we talk about our Coach of the Year, which is probably the dumbest award besides Comeback Player of the Year.
You know what we all need to get more of off our ass, and that's right. This episode is sponsored by Mountain Dew. You can't tell, but yeah, there is Mountain Dew in this cup. Cheers, with bold flavors and a refreshing citrus kick. Mountain Dew is going to get you off your ass, having you feeling like you're on an actual mountain, a mountain where the weather is always perfect, your friends are ready to hang, and a day of epic proportions awaits. And I start off my game days 8 a.m. Yeah, it's early. Don't care. Start off my game days with Mountain Dews in the MetLife parking lot, L16. That's how I start off my game days. You should start off your game days too, because the mountain is calling. You should answer. Grab your friends. Grab an ice cold Mountain Dew wherever refreshing beverages are sold. And do the do, Bobby Skinner. You'll be glad you did.
You'll be glad you did. Let's go quick. Coach of the Year. 5, Andy Reid. 4, Matt LaFleur. 3, Dan Quinn. 2, Jim Harbaugh. 1, Kevin O'Connell. I don't care to explain any further. Coach of the Year is not the best Coach of the Year. It's like best above expectations. It's coaching above expectations.
Yeah, who was your 1, by the way?
Kevin O'Connell.
That is the one. And honestly, I think the conversation kind of ends there. 5, I have Todd Bowles, because I think he deserves it. He knows how to pick a damn good offense coordinator, which is valuable as a defense coach. Number 4, I have Jim Harbaugh. Number 3, I have John Harbaugh, even though he would never win it. Number 2, I have Dan Quinn. Did you have Dan Quinn number 2?
I had number 3. I had Jim Harbaugh number 2.
Okay, and then Kevin O'Connell, I have number 1. I don't feel the need to. Yeah, I'm similar to you. I think Kevin O'Connell, as if they even make the playoffs, I think he's easily winning this award.
All right, you want to end this episode? We're at 54 minutes.
Oh, I want to do game picks really quick. That's a lot of games to pick, though. Should we just should we just do it privately? I want to continue it. I want to keep the record.
Just go through the schedule right now. All right,
I have it in front of me.
All right, so just don't even ask. All right. I got Patriots over Jags, Falcons over Seahawks, Bills over Titans, Bengals over Browns, Houston Texans over Packers, Colts over Dolphins, Vikings over Lions, Giants over Eagles. I want to believe in something. Rams over Raiders, Commanders over Panthers, 49ers over Chiefs, Jets over Steelers. I didn't know really we had double Monday Night Football. I'm going to go...
Your Chargers.
Bucks, surprise Monday Night Football win. Chargers, also a Monday Night Football win.
And I will be quick as well. I have the Jags in London, Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Packers, Colts, Vikings, Eagles, Rams, Commanders, 49ers, Jets, Ravens, even though I'm rooting for the Bucks. And I'll pick those Chargers against the inconsistent. Actually, you know what? Changing it. Going with the Cardinals because they were bad last week, so they'll be good this week. They'll beat the Chargers out west. There you go. That's an episode. Game picks.
We'll see you on Monday. Until then, that's football today.